Hello, hi, welcome to A Plus Tutoring. Today we'll be doing the basis of simplifying algebraic expression, like your foundation. Okay, so simplifying of algebraic expression is the opposite of factorization. Okay, so when we do factorization, we are what? We are changing and having brackets, right? But now when we do simplifying, we are now coming from the brackets to the long one. Okay, so this one was long one to brackets. So they are opposite of each other. So this was long one to brackets. So when factorizing, the minute you see an expression, we are now changing that expression into your brackets. Something like this, right? This one, sometimes you're given your brackets, you are now opening these brackets and having just one long expression with no brackets. So simplifying, you end up with no brackets at all, while factorization, you end up with brackets. Okay, now here's one that we're gonna try. So this one, here's a bracket, right? So what we are gonna do is the number outside is gonna multiply with both the numbers inside the brackets. So 3 is going to multiply with x, which we get 3x. 3 is going to multiply with 9, which we get 27. So now this is now our answer because it no longer has a bracket, right? And then for this, we open the same way we did here. We multiply this with that and this with this, right? So minus 6 times 8. Okay, so remember that the number multiplies with the number, right? So here, there was an invisible one. So it's 3 times the 1, and then it's 3. And then because it's not carrying any x, so we're only going to have just that x. Okay, so here it's the minus 6 times 8. So minus 6 times 8. So remember that this one is a negative, right? And here, because there's nothing, it means it's a what? It's a positive. So a negative times a positive, it's a what? A negative. Meaning now it's 6 times 8, which we have 48, and then x. Minus 6 times minus 4. Minus times minus gives us a positive. And then now 6 times 4 is your 24. Okay. So now when we have one like this is on its own, right? Now this bracket is related to this plus 4. Remember that a number carries the sign that is before it. So this plus is for the 4. So now it's the plus 4 times 9x and plus 4 times 3. The first thing we do is to open the brackets, right? Meaning we still have our 23x, it hasn't changed. And then now it's the 4 times 9. What is 4 times 9? We have our 36x, right? And then now we go and we say 4 times 3. That's 4 times 3, that is our 12, right? And then now we also have this side and the 12 that wasn't part of the brackets. So you see that this bracket was only related to 4. So I've seen the other mistake that people make when they now say 23x plus the 4 first before they open the bracket. So you open your bracket first because this is a multiplication. You're opening your bracket first before you do any other additions. Okay, so now after we've opened like this, we are now going to combine like terms. So 23x and 36x, you see that because they have an x, so they are like terms. Let's take that x as a synonym, right? So we're combining people that have the same synonym, same family, right? Same family. We're combining the same family. So here is Mhlongo, and there is another Mhlongo. Here is Nkosi, doesn't have anything. Here's another Nkosi, without anything. So what are we going to do? We're going to combine the Nkosis, right? We're going to combine the Mhlongos. So now the x does not change, because in this case we are adding, we are not multiplying, right? So the surname doesn't change, it stays as x. What now changes, we combine the numbers, which is now 23 plus 36, which will give us what? 59, right? So we now have 59x plus 12 plus 12, which is now 24. And then that is simplified. Okay, and here is another. So we have 5x times x minus 3, then minus 10. So this again multiplies with everything inside the bracket, right? So it's now 5x times x. In this case, because we are timesing, our x changes, right? So when we are adding, the surname doesn't change. But because we are timesing, the surname changes, because now we are marrying them together, right? So when you're timesing them, you now count the number of x's you now have. That's the power they will have, right? So we have an invisible 1 here, right? So it's 5 times 1, which is our 5. Now we have how many x's? 2 x's, meaning I have x to the power of 2. Okay, let me write my x properly. I have x to the power of 2, right? So if I was multiplying an x squared times an x3, right? An x squared times an x cubed. Here, I now have how many x's? 2 x's. Here, I have how many x's? 3 x's. So I combine all of them, meaning technically you're just adding the what? The exponents, and then you get an x5. That'll be their new surname. Okay. So now we have 5x squared, and then we now go and multiply with minus 3. So this is a positive. We're multiplying a positive and a negative. We have a negative. And then 5 times 3, we get our 15. And then we only have 1x, right? And then the minus 10, because this one is not affected by the bracket. So this would be our final answer. Why is it our final answer? Because this one, 5x squared and 15x, they are not related. They have two different surnames. X squared and x are not related. So they now end like this. The only time you're combining is if you also have another x squared. Then you'd combine x squared and x squared. Or if you have another x, then you combine x and x. But x squared and x do not combine when it's adding. For additions and subtractions, they do not combine because they are not related. Okay. And that was the last question for now. Send through questions in the comment section for problems you'd like me to try next.